Welcome to the Basics for Virtual Assistants podcast, your go-to destination for all things virtual assistant. I'm your host, Pol, and just 4 short years ago, I took that leap into the world of virtual assistants, and I've never looked back. Now it's my turn to help you take the same exciting path. Are you wanting to become a VA but no idea where to start, lost with how to price yourself or set yourself up for success? Well, look no further. As we explore this world together, I'll be sharing my experiences, insights, and all the valuable lessons I've learned along the way. So, get ready to explore the world of virtual assistants, uncover its limitless potential, and let me guide you on the path to becoming a successful virtual assistant. Your transformation into a skilled VA starts right here, right now.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I am so excited because I have Dannielle Cresp with me today, and we are talking all about time management and sharing time management tips. Dannielle, you can find her over on Instagram. Her motto is less hustle, more joy, and I think all of us could use that every day in our business, in our lives. And so, Danny, can you please jump in and share a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are?
Well, I have an interesting story. I actually started my first business 15 years ago online, and it was actually an Etsy business, and I handmade handbags. And through that, it was those very early days of learning online business, and we didn't really have any mentors or anyone around to teach us anything. So it was a lot of make it up as you go. And
Yes.
so I did, and I things pivoted, and I became a web designer for a while, and then I taught web design to other people. And after about 7 years, I decided to take a break from that, and I went and I worked in retail, and I worked my way up to store manager. But during the pandemic, I actually have a chronic illness. So during the pandemic, I realized it wasn't actually a great fit for me to stay in retail. And so I made the decision to, I'd actually moved to Adelaide for the store manager role. And then the world shut down 10 days later. So I ended up being 800 kilometers away from home, across a locked border and with no one I knew. So after the year ended, I was actually made redundant. So I had all these decisions to make, and my lease was ending, and what was I going to do? And I didn't really want to stay in retail anymore. So on my last few days in retail, I actually asked on Instagram stories, like, what do you think I would be good at? Like, what could I do? Because I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm a bit of at a loss to do what I want to do. And a friend actually messaged me, and she said, you'd be a really great virtual assistant. And so I went, oh, okay. So I researched that, and then I went, you know what? I am going to try that. So I moved those 800 kilometers back home, and I ended up starting that business almost 3 years to the day. And on my dad's couch of all places, because I hadn't even set up a place to live, and they'd actually lost all of my furniture and everything. So it was really one of those times where I started with a laptop and a dream, and that was kind of figure it out. But it actually worked out quite well, and I did that for about 2.5 years. And then I realized that there were a couple of things that happened. So my dad became ill, and I realized that I would need to be available more often for him. And the way I had set up my business was very 9 to 5, and it was very, I'll be here for you at these times on these days. And it really doesn't work when you have to be at these last minute appointments all the time. And I wanted to be able to be there for my clients and give them the absolute best, as well as being able to give my dad the absolute best, and something had to give. So I also realized that what I wanted to do was help more people, because I had a maximum of 4 clients at a time. And I really realized there were so many people that could also use these little bits that I know about, that I could share with so many more people, particularly like your audience. And to be able to help more people do that, and share all of this knowledge that I have over the 15 years that I'm a real knowledge collector, and I tend to listen a lot and learn a lot and then keep it all. So
Yes.
I tend to be, I guess the way I think about it is a connector. So someone will say, "Oh, I really wish I knew this, how to do this," and I'll say, "Oh, go to this website," and they'll say, "Oh, I've never heard of that before." And so that's what I like to do, and that's sort of where I've pivoted to and what I'm focusing on now, so that I'm able to be there for my family when they need me, but also be able to build my business in a way that's really fulfilling as well.
And sustainable for
Yes.
you. I think that is the biggest thing about starting your own business, is that whole, like, someone can say, "Oh, this will suit you perfectly," and it might for that time, but you need to pivot and make it sustainable for you long term. I
Yes.
feel that when I first started out as a VA, I was the same as you. I felt like I needed to be there for my clients all the time. Like, okay, I'm on at 8 and I'm off at 2, and like I will be available to that whole time. And it took me quite a while to realize, actually, like, I can do my work in my own hours. And I say to my clients, like, I'm on email if you need me, if there's a last minute task. And I always say to them, I'm not on today, or, like, I'm not doing last minute tasks today. It's just about like building that, sustainability for yourself. But I loved how you said you just started with your laptop. I feel like there's so many people out there who could just do that, who could just be
Yeah.
like, I have a computer or I have my phone and I can do that.
Yeah, literally, I was sitting on a couch. I did my first calls literally with the couch background, and my furniture hadn't even arrived. I was sleeping on a blow up mattress. Like I had nothing but a 7-year-old laptop, and literally just let's throw it out there and see if anyone wants it.
Yes, and I think that's the best thing about being a virtual assistant. Like, you don't need anything fancy. When I
No.
first started, I did my first ever coaching call, discovery call, sitting on the floor next to we were living in this tiny house, and the two kids had beds next to each other. Like, they were like an L shape, and I was
Yeah.
sitting on the floor with my headphones on, whispering to this client while they napped, because every time I left the room, they'd wake up and I'm like, really sorry, like, I just got my kids. And they're like, oh, no worries, I've got kids, I get it. And it was like, it doesn't have to be fancy. You can start with the absolute basics and grow from there.
Absolutely.
So I love that. That's sometimes it can be so hard to get stuck in that, like, social media. Like, you see all these VAs who have like all their fancy things. And yes, lots of us get to that point. But in the very beginning, it's basics. You don't
Yeah.
need much to get started.
Absolutely. Like my website that I'd started at that time, like I made the logo in 5 minutes. I made the website was literally a one pager that just said who I am, what I did, how I can help people, how to contact me, and that was it.
Yes. I
And
didn't
I
even have a
just
website for
yeah,
ages. I just started with like a Instagram
yeah,
account, and I was like, put up a few posts. I was like, email me here, guys. Like, yes, basics. And I feel like sometimes it can be so easy to get caught up in that, like, you have to have everything
perfection.
perfect before you
Yeah.
start. Like, we can just dive on in, guys. We don't need anything. Just put it out there and you
Yeah.
grow. And, like, what you do in the beginning is, I don't think, ever what you're doing 6 months down the track or 12 months down the track. Like,
No.
you pivot the whole time.
Absolutely. Every time you learn something, it's like building blocks. Like, and you were never at that same point you were before. And even if something stumbles, you're never all the way back to the bottom. Like, because you have all
Exactly.
of that knowledge and you get to skip all those steps, even if you have to like pivot or change what you're doing. It's definitely one of those things where you just get to go, oh, well, I already know how to do that. So I can
Yes.
I can do that really quickly this time.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and it
Or
ends
like
up
you
like you
make
learn
it.
these things because your clients ask you how to if you can do them. And there's been so many times where I've said, well, I haven't done it before, but I'm happy to give it a go, and I think I can do it. And then I end up becomes a huge part of what I do.
Yes.
Um, like for me, when I started the business, I hadn't used Canva in 6 years, and Canva had completely changed. And so I sort of, people just ask me, oh, can you make this basic thing? And I learnt Canva then, and then the Canva that's there now, 3 years later, is almost a completely different thing again, because
Yeah.
these things change so fast. You're
Mhm.
always learning, and as long as you're open to always learning, it's such a rewarding thing.
Yes. And I feel like as a virtual assistant, you kind of need to be learning on the job. Like you're never not growing and learning. Like
Yeah.
you might be doing these tasks and then a client you love working with, who you've been working with for ages, comes and says, "Hey, I want to try this." And you can be like, "Okay, like I'm not perfect. I've never done it before, but we'll learn." And most of the time those clients are willing to have you learn as you go rather than go out and find someone new to start
Yeah,
working
or them
with.
learn it
So,
themselves, because they definitely
yes.
don't have the time for that.
No, they definitely don't. Our biggest thing to remember is our clients have hired us because they don't have time.
Yeah.
So, like as much as it takes time, that beginning setup, the end goal is you saving them time. So
Yeah.
that first couple of months might be more time while everything gets set up, but the end goal is to save them time. So, yes, I know when you're learning on the job, it can be intimidating. YouTube and Google will be your best friend. That is, I think,
Absolutely.
I learned so much from the school of YouTube when I first started out. When I was like, someone would be like, "Can you send an email through this program?" You're like, "How do I send an email through this program?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I do that even. I think I even did that yesterday. I was like, why isn't this working? I'm just gonna Google how to do. Like, I upgraded my computer um software, and it was doing something weird, and I was like, why is it doing this?
Yeah. Like,
And it
what
was
is?
like, how do I make it not do that anymore? And they were like, do this, and I was like, oh, it's back, thank you.
Yes, I did a Facebook Live in my Facebook group yesterday. And a client of mine was like, "Oh, do a Facebook Live and then you can like pull the audio and just use it as a podcast episode." And I was like, "Fantastic." Here I am like, "How do I pull the audio from a video?" Like I was like a whole new skill. It took me
Yeah.
it wasn't a hard task, but it was something I had never done before and it was like, "Please YouTube show me the exact steps."
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But that also then leads into, and I'm going to put this in just for anyone. That's how I focus on SEO.
Yes.
Is you think about what questions you would ask, or what questions the person that doesn't know something would ask, and then you answer that question. And that's how you would do it in whether it's a podcast, or whether it's a blog post or social media or anything like that. People want easy answers to their questions. So think about what questions they're asking from their perspective. And really, that's your like hack into SEO. I know there's all of those keywords and all of that extra stuff, that the high level stuff, but at the very basics, if you start with what questions do my clients want to know the answer to hire me,
Yes.
even if you start with like an FAQ page or something like that, they'll come to you because you can answer their questions and they feel confident in that.
Yes. And I talk a lot about when you're looking for clients, it's the same thing. Go into Facebook groups, search the questions that you know the answers to,
Yeah.
comment on those posts. Because the amount of times that someone is asking a question and you have the answer, and we're not going in there to sell to them, we're just
No.
going in there to be like, "Hey, just so you're aware, I'm here and I have the information and I can help you." But it's the
That's
same.
right.
Yes.
It's
Go and
about sharing
find
your
them.
knowledge and being useful. That's
Yes.
like, for me, that's what I really have leaned into, particularly in this last year, because it actually, for me, it fills me up.
Yes.
Like it fills my cup, to be super useful, and to be really encouraging. So
Yes.
that's something that should you see me on Threads, like most of the time, I'm like
Yes.
just cheering people on, particularly new businesses, because I remember when I was a brand new business, particularly when I was brand new Etsy business, everything was very gatekeepy and it was very
Yes.
competition, and we couldn't be nice, and there was a lot of like, unless you were a part of like a special
Clicky group.
group.
Yes.
Whereas I'm just like, oh my God, that's amazing. You got your first sale. You're fantastic. And you just like, the more you lift other people up, like I'm a big believer in like the rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, and I
I'm the
think there's
same.
space for everyone.
Yes. That's one thing I have loved about the podcast is just sharing with other people what I've already learned. Like, I've been where you are, I get it, and I understand. And being able to have other VAs or other women who have been VAs come on and share their story, because I think everybody's story is so different and everybody got to this point
Mm.
so differently. They have advice that I don't have. Like, I interviewed a lady the other day, and she it went a route of like, oh, I'm too busy, I will take on associates. I've never done that. So I had no idea about that whole concept. And then, like, being able to share that with my audience and have them see, like, oh, there's another option for you. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's been so much fun to bring all of that knowledge out for people. Um, yes, I'm the same. And I must admit, I love your threads. And I always, every time I get so excited, I post this for thread, and the first like is always you. And I'm like, oh, I'm so loved. I feel so
Yeah.
special. Oh. But let's jump into the next question I
Yes.
have for you. So, my next question is, what are the benefits of inputting time management strategies in your business? Because I know that time management is definitely something you're very confident in.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear from you about why you think that's such like a positive thing for your business.
Oh, okay. Truly, it gives you that sense of control, and it gives you an ability to, for me, when I can see it on a page, I actually handwrite mine. Um, it lets me, like, it gives me a real idea of how much time I actually have. And
Yes.
it's one of the things I've worked with clients on before, and it's something I'm hoping to offer again, is almost you set up like a faux calendar, and you get an idea of, okay, I do this many hours for this person and this many hours for this person. How would I chunk that across a week, including all of the things that are important to me that are outside of work, and make sure that I am not overfilling my plate.
Yes.
But it's also like it gives you that ability to say, right, I I am singly focused on this right now, because I'm a real believer in the fact that while multitasking can be good at certain times, single tasking is where you get the real work done and you get the productivity. Um,
Yes.
and it particularly when you're on a timer. I'm not sure if everyone uses a timer, but my business was timer based because I worked on an hourly rate. Um, that stopping, getting up, getting a snack, or that stopping, answering a phone call, or that stopping, getting distracted, I would lose hours of my day. I would think it would only be a couple of minutes, but those couple of minutes, 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 times a day, really add up to, like, you look at your timer at the end of the day and you're like, "Oh, I only actually managed to do, like, 3 hours of, like, paid work today when I had hoped to do 6."
Yes.
So, for me, having it's that single tasking, it's the focus. It really lets you focus. It lets you get on with that, and then when you've done that amount of time, you can tick it off. Then you have your little break, or you do your next task, and then at the end of the day, like it really helps me. I like to feel accomplished,
Me too.
so it's really good for me to be able to tick
I'm a
things
big,
off my
like,
to-do
I
list.
like to cross it off.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Even if it's like 10 minutes of admin in the morning and you're like, I'm done.
Yes.
Like I did some Instagram management early on, and one of the things they only had an hour a week they wanted, so I would do 15 minutes, I think like 4 days a week, and so get doing that first thing in the morning, it was an easy win. Because
Yes.
you already had one job ticked off by like 9:15. And then I
Yes.
was like, "Oh, cool." And then you've got what like runs on the board and you can just keep going. You can use that
Mhm.
momentum. Because I'm a believer in the fact that momentum comes from actually starting. Like you
Yes.
can't sit and wait for it. You have to force it effectively. So yeah,
Yes.
I either try to do something fun or I do something small.
Yeah.
And then once you then you can build on those.
Yeah. I am a big believer too. When you say single tasking, I batch.
Yeah.
So for me, I found, and I didn't find it, I think, until my second year of being a virtual assistant. But once I was like, okay, every single week I write a subscriber email for my client. Instead of doing it every single week and like taking 45 minutes because I've got to open the program and bind everything, I'm going to go and I'm going to get all of that content at the beginning of the month, and I'm just going to do all of the emails in one batch, and then it's done for the month. And it's like, it's a big job done. I massively save myself time because I'm not going back and like reopening the document, reopening the program, all of the things. And I just found like it took me a while to find the right way to batch, but I was the same. You sit down, you do that task, it's done, and you can be like, oh, for the whole month, I'm done with this task. I don't have to start again until next month. I've already done at the beginning of month a bunch of hours that I needed to get done in the whole month. Like, yeah, I'm a big believer in like where you can group things together and get them done in one go rather than that spread them out.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Yes.
like I was doing um writing Instagram posts for people, and what we ended up doing was we would write the entire month in one go, and then a separate task would be to create the imagery that went with that.
Yes.
And then scheduling was a separate task again. So rather than doing the writing, the imagery, and the scheduling, and then repeat over certain days, you would set 2 or 3 hours and be like, right, I am going to write the entire month's worth of content.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, then I'll create images to match. And then a completely separate task is to schedule them. And the scheduling doesn't necessarily have to be done at exactly the same time, because if you're getting that stuff done 6 weeks before it starts to post, the scheduling can wait.
Yes. And it doesn't
So,
take as long. When you've got all of it created, it just, yes. It's like creating those flows, I think, of like
yeah. And it
this
keeps your
workflow.
brain on the same task, which makes it easier, because
Yes.
repetition is, it just is, it's just easier than having to jump from one thing to the other. Um, yeah.
And I
So,
find, especially with social media posts, you're
yeah.
less likely to double up on content where you're like, did I
Yes.
post that? Have I written about this yet? Like it just flows
Yeah,
better.
and you can almost make a series within the month,
Yes.
and almost have a theme for the month, because you let them lead into each other, even though you know that most people won't see all of it. So there has to be a certain amount of repetition, but it's a good amount of repetition.
Yeah. Rather than that, oh, I posted that 2 days ago, but I forgot about it. So I rewrote the same thing and posted it again. Yes. Um, I also love when you create, I don't know about you, but I love creating systems for things too. That whole like, okay, what steps do I need to do? How can I make them the most streamlined
Yes, I'm
to do them?
100%. That's actually something that I am hoping to start to teach people, because I like it's made my life so much better. Yes, I love when everything has like set steps. It really
Yes.
works for me. And I have a client who's really great at writing steps, but even then I'll go in and write in some sub steps for myself. Um,
Yes.
and it's just so that I can go in and do that sort of thing. And this is one of the things that um, I have talked about on my social media in the past, was that if a client has a particular, and it might be something that your readership or listeners can use, is um, I often get them to do a video of how they do something, so
Yes.
that either I can one, you can learn from them and their way of
Mm.
doing it, but two, if it's a repetitive task that's say 6 weeks apart, instead of you having to ask them how to do it again, you can just rewatch the video.
Yes.
So, like, I
Yes.
have some monthly tasks that do have to be done monthly. Um, I still have one VA client, and instead of asking her every month, I can just go back and I can watch the video of the steps that she wanted me to take. And
Yeah.
it's so good because I've done a million things in between the last time I've done that.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good refresher. And sometimes I don't need it, and sometimes I do. And sometimes we can do them a bit early. So there's like 8 or 10 weeks between it. And it's just great to have that reminder there for you, where you don't have to be like, hey, how do I do that again?
Yes. I love Loom. I don't know if you use Loom,
Yes.
but all of my clients use Loom now, and they make me a Loom video, and then it's saved in our library so I can go back and access it whenever I need. And like once you share it with someone, it automatically saves in your library too, so you have it. And we just make sure that we are really good at naming exactly what task it is. So this video is specifically like one of my clients has a membership. So we say like this task is membership name, this specific step, membership name. But once you get that set up with your clients, it can be such a game changer to not have to constantly go, hey, I forgot how to do this one task, especially if you're working. I work for a client, they work in Kartra, so it's a program, and sometimes we have to go in and change membership details or refund things. And it's not something we do all the time. So oftentimes it could be 3 months between doing the tasks. And I'm like, let's search for that video because I've forgotten how to do it again. And like you do learn things over time, your memory sticks. But when it's a task you're only doing really like not very regularly, or even if, like you said, I have a monthly task I do for my client too, same thing, it has to be done on the exact same day every month. And it's the same. We do a bunch of tasks in between. And so I look at that video every month and I'm like, what steps do I need to take? Because I have forgotten in the very short time. But yes, no, I love Loom. I think if your clients aren't using Loom, definitely recommend it to them. There's a free version and a paid version. And if you're using the free version, tell them that they can just send you multiple videos for the one thing. They just need to name it like part 1, part 2, because it cuts you off after a certain amount of time. But I know sometimes in the beginning, business owners don't always want to purchase products until they're sure it will work. So that's always a good option too. And with your setting up steps, do you use like Trello or any of those sorts of things with your clients?
Actually, Asana is where I started. I've started using Trello for myself. I have a problem with falling in love with all of them. But Asana seems to work best for us, particularly with the fact you can do subtasks.
Yes.
That's Trello doesn't allow for subtasks on the free version. So I find Trello good for brainstorming for myself. I've actually just recently found Capacities through someone on Threads. And Capacities allows you to it's almost a brain dumping software, but it turns into a mind map.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like you set it up and it's a project and then a plan and then a page, and then it just turns into this mind map.
That's amazing.
I'm finding it's really useful for planning out what's coming for the rest of the year for me. But I'm actually also finding it, just on a little aside, in caring for my dad, I'm finding it really useful to put all of those things, because there's so many bits to remember, and there's so many different people, that I'm finding it really useful to have that there. So because it is such a great brain dumping software, and that you can just put it all there, and it links out. And then
that's awesome.
as someone who can't do mind maps because they get too messy on paper and they start to worry me, I really love the fact that it makes a neat one, and if you add something to it, it kind of just it fits it all together again.
Oh, so, that's awesome.
But yeah, there's a free version of that, and it's capacities dot, I think it's IO. And it's still relatively new, but it's I think it's German, but it's very fun, and I'm trying to convince more people to use it. So have a look at it, because
I will. When you said tracking your dad's stuff, my instant thought process was tracking my kids' stuff.
Because they're still quite new, they're constantly adding new stuff. So if it's not there yet, I just found yesterday there's like a board where you can see what they're working on.
That's so cool.
And I was like,
yes. I love that. I'm that person that gets like emails from the like different products I use, and they're like, newest update, and I'm like, tell me more. I want to know. I need to know. Yeah,
and that's what I do with Squarespace too. I'm like, oh, what are you doing now?
Yes, what's coming? Yes. If you're looking, like, as in for the listeners, if you're looking for different places, I found Monday works really well. I love Trello for specific clients. It really depends on what they're looking for. Notion is good as well. I feel with Notion, it's find a template someone else has made, buy the template. It costs you $4. It will save your sanity rather than trying to create your own templates. And then, like you said, Dannielle, that capabilities. So if you were looking for something, go and check them out. All of them have free trials, so definitely trial them before you purchase anything. Because what works for one person might not work for you. And yeah, once you figure out what works for you, start recommending it to your clients. Oftentimes, clients might have their own thing that you just have to learn too, but they're not using anything. Find the one you love and then recommend it. That's what I did. Because then you already know how it works.
Absolutely. Yeah, Asana is great too.
Oh yes, sorry.
So definitely keep that one in mind. That one's got a really good free version.
Yeah, awesome.
Because I don't think I ever had to actually upgrade mine, which is awesome.
Oh, that is fantastic.
So, it's good, particularly if you're starting out and you don't have like a lot of funds behind you. Look, there are quite a few good free options, and you can always keep the other ones for later because quite a few of them will let you import from one to another.
Yeah.
So that's something worth keeping in mind if you are starting out and you're trying not to spend money because as like all of us know, it's when you do start out, sometimes you're starting out because like you're like, how do I make money? Because I need to make money now. So yeah, I really started mine very bare bones. That's why I talk about the fact that my laptop was like, it was 7 years old and like everything was like, I think my first purchase was a good computer chair. And I was so excited because it was so comfortable compared to the one I was sitting on like a kitchen chair before, and it was just not great.
No.
But
I think a lot of us start that way. I got given money for my birthday. I think it was like $300, and I went and bought the cheapest laptop I could find. And I used that to work until it started, old laptops used to fritz.
Yeah.
And you'd get like a couple hours and then the screen would start to fritz and you'd be like, please just last until a little bit longer. So I feel like, yes, a lot of us start at that bare minimum. So it is definitely find the free versions of everything and trial things before you buy anything. I have definitely been known to make the mistake of someone saying, this product's amazing, and I've bought it and then it doesn't suit me. And I'm like, oh, I wish I'd used the free version first. So definitely do all the free trials first before you buy anything is number one tip. I have another question for you. Okay. Often as VAs, we are juggling multiple clients and a variety of tasks, as you know. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us some strategies you think helped you when you were a VA or you would recommend to VAs now?
For me, probably the number one thing is time blocking. So the way I did it, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but there is a company called My Goals, and they're MIGOALS, and they do like productivity notepads and goals and all those sorts of things. They're a stationery company that focuses on goals and productivity. Awesome. They're actually located about 5 minutes from my home, which is very exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah, they started out on Etsy and they've gone great guns, and now they're quite a big business. But they have this weekly planner pad that has 50 sheets. So I buy one a year.
Yeah.
And it literally lets you write down what you've got for the week, but for each like day. They also have daily ones, but I love the weekly one because what I do, I time block in 2-hour blocks.
Yeah.
So if I've got a client for 4 hours of a week, this is how I used to set it up. In my brain, I'm still there, but I am not really. But what I would do is I would have like 2 hours for each client. So 2 hours in the morning, then I would stop for lunch, and then I would do another 4 hours, but in 2-hour blocks with an afternoon tea break. And the 2 hours really worked for me. I worked out that that's a really good amount of time for me to focus. And you can set it to whatever it is, but I found that's a really good way to split it up. So I would do, even if I could sit there and I could potentially do the 4 hours in one go, I found doing 2 hours, then getting feedback from my client, and then doing the other 2 hours on another day. So I have had one client where I do Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, another one where I do like Monday. I think I did like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday because we had 6 hours. And I just would work it out that way. But it also gives me a lot of variety in my day. And for
Yes.
me, that's really good for my brain, is to not stick to the one task for the whole day. So I think it's about how you work best, but doing those 2 hour blocks or hour and a half blocks um, can be really good at giving you that single focus, coming back to that, and really focusing on what's without you having to go, oh, well, I do that for this client and for this client and for this client, and maybe I should do all of it together. You start to like run out of steam with it. Well, I
Yes.
do. I don't know if everybody does.
Yeah.
But it can be really good for me to go, right, well, this morning I'm going to work on stuff for this client, and maybe it's majoritarily all Canva tasks, or I'll do the Canva tasks first, and then I will do all the Shopify tasks, and then for the client, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. And then at the end, you've got something to tick off, and you can either tick off your hours or you can tick off that you've actually completed the tasks, which is really exciting for me. Like I've said it before, but I really do love that ability to just tick it off and be like, yes, it's done.
Me too,
So,
for sure.
but it also gives that expectation for your clients that when you might be around, and
Yeah.
when those hours are done, you can be like, well, everything else is for next week, so, or everything else, like, we're done for the month, like, that's your hours done. Let's get everything sorted for the next time we're working together.
Yeah.
Which is something that I really worked hard on, particularly with the whole keeping things simple. So one of the big things when I went back into business and I decided to do this VA stuff is I promised myself that stuff wouldn't be overcomplicated. And it was
Yes.
really hard to do in the beginning. Like I really had to teach myself. But it has been so useful for me to say, no, what is the simplest way to do it, and
Yep.
stick to that. But also, it's that setting expectations with your clients as well. So for me, the way I set mine up was that they get a certain amount of hours per week. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that if you've got different stuff on week to week. Setting it up by how many hours per month can be great too.
Yeah.
At the time, I needed income coming in each week. So for me,
Yeah.
at the beginning, I was like, this will be great. And it worked really well until life changed on me, and then I had to adjust.
Adjust. Yeah.
But that's how it is. And I'm a big believer in things being for a season.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so it can be really good to just have those hours and know what, like, okay, so I color code everything. Like I'll be like, okay, 2 hours of purple and then 2 hours of blue, and then so I know all my clients are color coded.
Yeah.
So I have notebooks to handwrite notes just for each one, and each one is color coded. I actually have a visual project board where I have each of them as a post-it note, and how many hours I'm doing for them is actually on the board, so I can look over and I can see from
Yep.
day to day like what I've got on. And then I've color coded them in my email. I've color coded them in my accounting software. So because of the way my brain works, I look for a color before I look for a word.
Yep.
So like if everything, like I'll be orange, 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 and I know they're all for the one person,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
one task. And that's,
I'm the same.
yeah. So it's those little things that are, well, that's technically not time management. It's the useful things that just make your life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I it's batching and time blocking are not exactly the same, but I feel like they have the same type of
Yes. And you
like
can batch when you are
benefit.
time blocking.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I do time block because I know that I work one client, I work weekly, one client, I work monthly, and then my others just kind of fit around them. And so it's the same. It's like balancing I know that at the end of every month I have a massive task that takes X amount of hours for that client. So then it's like balancing the rest of them back across the month. But I'm a big handwriter too. I have so many people like, you should go digital. I can't do it. I like to see it. I like it's a physical feeling. It sounds so silly to say, but the ticking it
also
off.
think like that's how it gets out of my brain.
Yes.
Like
I'm a
it's
big
how
brain
I
dumper.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I can do it on the computer, but I'll often find that I have notes handwritten and then I transfer them onto the computer, and it's how I like it's a memory thing.
Yes.
Like I'll read through it, and sometimes like I actually have like I don't have it on me, but I have this really cheap like rip-off notebook thing.
Yeah.
Just from like Woolies.
Yeah.
And I keep that because that's where I write my like little nonsensical notes.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, like hex codes that I have to remember from one program to the next that I can't copy, or
Yes.
someone said they wanted something extra done, and so I'll write that there. Or I'll often do like if I have had to stop early, and I need to know how many minutes left I have for them, and it's like 27 minutes left for the time, I'll like write that, and then none of it needs to be kept, so all of it can be thrown away. So they're just like they're not notes that are important.
Yeah.
And if you came and you read them, not
They'd
one
make
of
no
them would
sense.
make sense. But
I'm a notebook keeper. I always have a notebook. And I'm the same. And then I was on a coaching call with my coach, and she goes to me, I'm one of those people who like comes up with ideas and I'm like, I have to action them today. And she's like, you're not working towards your 30-day goals because you're doing something that connects to 90-day goals. So she made me write this piece of paper that's like, not this quarter's goals, this quarter's goals, and it sits on my desk. And the amount of like scribbled notes where I'm like, oh, this is a good idea. Oh, but that doesn't, yes, so I'm the same.
I have a notebook where the front is the stuff I'm working on now, and the back is all the stuff that I'm like, I have to write it down, but I'm not allowed to work on it, but I need to get it out of my head so I can go back to what I meant to be working on.
So I can go and focus. Yes, I'm the same. That's so funny. Yes, I'm a big like, or I'll take like meeting notes by hand and then I'll reread them. I'll be like, I'm not sure what that says, but we'll work on everything else in this like list. Oh, so funny. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Dannielle. I had such a wonderful time, and I feel like there are so many amazing little tidbits that we can take away from this episode. You can find Dannielle at Dannielle Cresp on Instagram and Threads, and also on her website, danniellecresp.com. Dannielle has very kindly shared a discount code with my listeners, so you can use Basics VA for 15% off any order until June 30th, 2024 at midnight. So definitely take advantage of that discount code. You can go over there and check out any of her offers and grab those. And thank you again, Dannielle, for coming on. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Dannielle. I had such a wonderful time, and I feel like there are so many amazing little tidbits that we can take away from this episode. You can find Dannielle at Dannielle Cresp on Instagram and Threads, and also on her website, danniellecresp.com. Dannielle has very kindly shared a discount code with my listeners, so you can use Basics VA for 15% off any order until June 30th, 2024 at midnight. So definitely take advantage of that discount code. You can go over there and check out any of her offers and grab those. And thank you again, Dannielle, for coming on. And that brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you've enjoyed diving into the fundamentals of the virtual assistant world with me today. If you found value in our discussion and want to connect further, remember you can join our community on Facebook. Just search the Basics for Virtual Assistants and we can continue the conversation there. For more behind the scenes content, tips and updates, you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. Follow me at the Basics for VAs podcast for bite-sized insight and a glimpse into the VA world. I'm thrilled you tuned in, and if you have any questions or specific topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, feel free to drop a message. Your feedback is invaluable. Until next time, keep thriving in your virtual assistant realm, and I'll catch you in the next episode.